3 guesses as to what I'm preaching on this morning. We're going to Psalms. I'm just kidding. We're going to Exodus. I didn't get real adventurous when it came to the title this morning. I thought about it and thought about it. And finally, I was just like, you know what? Just keep it short, keep it simple. This is what the sermon is. And it is literally, this is the entirety of what we're going to be talking about this morning. We've been going through the 10 Commandments over the past several months, and we have gotten to the 8th commandment, which is found in Exodus chapter 20, verse 15. And it says very plainly, you shall not steal. And I'll be completely honest with you guys. As I was reading over this, I was thinking, as I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this is not going to be a very long sermon. Because, what all is there to say about this? And the longer I looked at it, the more I dug into it, the more I realized there was a little bit more to be said here than just simply don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. Because the term steal, I looked up definitions. Because, I'm digging, I'm trying to figure out, is there something more here than I'm just looking at? So I started looking up definitions, and I don't know if any of y'all are like me or not, but when I started looking up definitions, started finding words within the definition that I needed the definition for, and so I started chasing that rabbit down until eventually I looked up 15 definitions and forgot what I was looking up the first definition for. And so just to plainly put it, to steal something is to take possession of something that does not belong to you. That is, as plain talk as you can get. To steal something from someone means you take possession of something that does not belong to you, right? And I don't know about you guys, and I've battled back and forth about how to start this morning, and I'll be honest with you, my big hang-up with this commandment is this. It almost feels like it doesn't fit. And let me explain why I say that. I'm not obviously saying it's not important. It is very important. You shall not steal. I'll be honest with you guys, there are 2 things that I just have little to no tolerance for out of a human being. All right, I'm not saying I hate it, but I'm going to tell you this much right now. I've got a serious problem with someone who lies to me and a problem with someone who steals from me. You lie or steal from me, we got some issues, okay? Some serious issues. So I'm not making light of the commandment, but let's review. Can we do that? Let's review real quick here and look at the lineup leading to this commandment, right? You've got, you shall have no other gods before you. You shall create no new other gods. You shall not take the Lord's name in vain. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not kill. And then you shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. And now we have you shall not steal. Everything leading up to this, Arnold, feels pretty heavy. Feels pretty heavy stuff, and then it's don't steal. Well, as I looked at this, I'm like, there has to be some significance here. And I don't know, I seriously think one of the biggest issues we have as a body, not necessarily as New Life Outreach, but just as Christians, as human beings in general, is we become too familiar with things. Right? Most of us, very likely, if you grew up in a home that went to church or believed in God, a lot of you, how many of you had the 10 Commandments on the wall at the house? How many of you remember that? Had the little plaque, right? Little wooden plaque, had the little brass or, whatever thing on it, had the 10 Commandments written in Old English on it, right? Almost everybody had one of those. The thing about that is it becomes so familiar to us that we really lose reverence for it. We kind of become so familiar. Guys, I want us to understand something here this morning, okay? And this is all, we're going somewhere, okay? We're going to take a little while, but we're going to get somewhere. What I want us to understand is that while I look at this and I go, that seems like it doesn't fit, we need to understand how important this is. You understand? Guys, God Himself, I want you to think about this for a minute. God Himself is the one speaking to Israel in Exodus chapter 20. God is not speaking through Aaron. He's not speaking through Moses. God is not using somebody to speak to the people. God Himself is speaking to His people. Not only that, but we fast forward a little bit further and we see God Himself goes up on this mountain with His hand and hews out 2 stone tablets with His hands. You understand? He hews them out, and then with His finger, He writes these 10 commandments. Let me ask you something. When was the last time in Scripture leading up to this point that God had His hand physically in anything? It was in creation. That was, God spoke everything into existence, and then He took His hand and He said He formed man out of the dust of the earth. What am I driving at? I'm saying, guys, these 10 things should not become commonplace for you and I, but we should look at these 10 things and realize that God felt they were so important that He was not going to let someone else speak them for Him, and He wasn't going to let somebody else sit down and write them down. He was going to do it. That's how important these 10 things are. And so when we look like I did at this and you're like, you shall not steal, it kind of seems a little out of place. It's not out of place because it was of great importance. They understood that they needed to be able to coexist with one another. We got to understand in order for us to get the depth of things in Scripture, we first and foremost have got to get ourselves out of the equation. Right? It's not popular teaching, but it's the truth. You need to remove yourself from the equation. We are really bad to sit down, open our Bible, and immediately go, what does this mean to me? Right? How many of us do that? What does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? And while, yes, your word has an application for your life, here's the fun thing about it, though. You don't really get to understand what it means to you until you know what it meant to the person it was written to first. So first and foremost, you got to remove yourself from the equation for a few minutes. It ain't all about you and it ain't all about me. We got to quit sitting down and going, well, this word was written right for me. And there has been so many, oh my gosh, there's been so many scriptures yanked so far out of context, it ain't even funny. We take them and apply them to our lives because they make really cool bumper stickers and they look really awesome on t-shirts. We have absolutely no idea, sis, what they originally meant, what they were written for, who they were written to. Jeremiah 29:11, everybody loves that one. Does anybody in here know what was going on in Jeremiah chapter 29? Probably not. Guys, this is what I'm saying. We yank things out of context and we want to apply them to our lives. In order to understand why this is important, we got to stop and say, where's Israel at this time? Israel is not a structured nation in any capacity. They're not living in houses. They don't have homes. They are living in tents. They are following God, cloud by day, fire by night. When God stops, they stop and they set up camp. And then whenever God starts moving, they take down camp and they start following God again. They're not structured. They don't even have a structured government at this time. Y'all understand that? They don't have structured government yet because they have just left after 400 years of enslavement, 400 years of captivity in Egypt. And when we back up and we realize Israel, which started, for those of you that don't know, because I know some of you haven't been here for all of this, Israel started as a family. And they go to Egypt, and they're in Egypt for a while. They were led to Egypt. That was where they were supposed to be. But then they stayed a little longer than they probably should have. And they became enslaved to Egypt. And as 400 years progresses, they become more and more enslaved in Egypt. Here's the fascinating thing about being enslaved in Egypt. It was not a cakewalk by no means. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm not trying to do that. But I want you to understand there is a certain level of security to be found in that enslavement. Y'all hearing what I'm saying? Y'all awake? Some of y'all staring at me like an old mule looking at a new gate, like y'all just severely confused right now. I don't need a lot of feedback, but wake up and listen to me because we're getting somewhere, all right? There is a certain level of security to be found in Egypt. While they were enslaved, yes, they also, guys, here's the thing. They may have fought some battles, but they never had to fight in battle on their own. They always had Egypt to fight along with them. You ever listen to their complaints? What are they always complaining and saying? When we were back in Egypt, what did they have? They had food, they had drink, they had all these provisions. There was a certain level of security to be found in enslavement. And that should speak to some of us every now and then. We should stop and realize that we may be finding ourselves in a place of enslavement, but you don't want to get out of that enslavement because you find a little bit of security within that enslavement, right? You talk to anybody who's had to overcome some things in their life, they'll tell you the hardest part was getting out of their head. Because when they sit down and they start thinking about what life looks like without whatever it is they're trying to deal with, they don't know what life looks like without that. So this is a body of people who had a certain amount of security within their enslavement. And so whenever they go out of here, they leave out of Egypt, God shows up and through a series of plagues brings them out of Egypt, and they are now wandering to a land none of them has seen. I seriously think we undersell this. I don't think we understand the fullness of what's going on with Israel. I really don't. We don't give credit, Lyle. I really don't think we do. Because all we focus on is how they keep complaining all the time. That's what we talk about the most. We talk about the plagues, and we talk about some of the miracles, and we talk about Israel like I can't believe they're wandering around and they're just complaining every step they take. Do you all realize what kind of faith these people are walking in right now? They are following. Do you realize Israel at this point is about 2 million strong by anybody's account, right? About 2 million people. I don't even know 2 million people, right? I don't even have that many Facebook friends. And I got a lot of people on Facebook I don't know. I mean, just to be honest. I mean, you know, I'm friends with you. I don't know who you are. But I don't even know 2 million people. 2 million people are walking out of Egypt. They're following a guy that not all of them know. Very few of them know. They didn't have a GPS system. They didn't have a map. They're following a guy they barely know to a land none of them has ever laid eyes on. It's a land not only has none of them laid eyes on, Moses himself, the man leading them, hasn't even been there. I want you to think about that for a second. Y'all ever go to book a vacation and you don't know where necessarily you're going and you're thinking about booking it? We did this recently and we're like, I don't know anything about this place. What did we do? We went to the internet. We started looking up pictures of this place because we're like, we don't know where we're getting ready to go. This could be a bad neighborhood. We may not want to do this. They didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have that availability. They are blindly walking. And not only that, but I want to point you to this. I promise we're going somewhere. It sounds like I'm rambling, but I promise you we are going somewhere. It has been 3 months since they left Egypt. The problem, here's our problem. Y'all have heard me say this before. It has been 3 months since they left Egypt. That was 5 chapters ago. That's our problem. We sat down and we read chapter for chapter and we read it like that was 5 days of events that took place. No, that was 3 months of things that took place. We are 3 months into this journey right now. And we have the gall to sit down and be like, I can't believe they complained the way they did. I know some of y'all wouldn't have made it half a day. I mean, there's some folks that wouldn't have made it half a day outside of Egypt without going, my goodness, it's hot out here. I don't like this. We need to go back. At least we had fans. My goodness, I don't want to carry my tent. Somebody carry it for me. We would have had people complaining before they ever got out of Egypt. And we look at them going, I can't believe they complained. They complained because they're 3 months out going somewhere they've never been. So it's perfectly understandable. They're complaining. Here's the thing about having that security back in enslavement, and every step they're taking is a step in faith, and they don't know where they're going. Here's the thing that happens with people. When you take someone and you remove from them the security of a livelihood, like I said, we're going somewhere. You remove the security of a livelihood. You remove the certainty of food because it got taken. You understand that, right? We know, obviously, we read it where God sends manna from heaven. He didn't do that right off the rip, y'all. He didn't. He didn't provide water either, not right off the rip. He didn't do that. This was a process of time. Day for day, they're walking going, what are we going to do when we run out of food? What are we going to do when we ain't got no more water? Well, what happens when you start removing that sense of security, that sense of certainty? What happens? People begin looking around and they start getting sticky fingers. Right? Again, we're not in structured houses, we're in tents. Any of y'all ever been to a hotel room and forget something there when you leave? Think about how easy it would be to rob your neighbor in a tent. Wouldn't be very hard to do. It'd be pretty simple, right? Honey, have you seen my earrings? No, I don't know how we must have left them at the last campsite, right? And here, old Billy Bob over here he done robbed you blind. And you don't know no better, right? Guys, here's the thing. When you start removing that sense of security, that's why this verse is important. Because God knew that whenever fear and anxiety starts entering into the picture, there is a nature to man that says, I'm going to survive one way or the other. And every step they've taken, God has been systematically bringing them to a place where they didn't depend on one another, but they depended on Him. You've heard it said all your life, very likely, if you've been in church a long time. It said God took 10 plagues and got Israel out of Egypt, and then He spent the rest of the time trying to get Egypt out of Israel. Right? And that's true. Because when you live in a certain place for so long and that's all you know, it takes a while to start changing some things. That is why there are times I get so frustrated with Christians who look at somebody who just got saved and they start laying down all these ground rules and they start going, well, you can't talk like that, you cannot. Listen to me, for crying out loud. Depending on who you're dealing with, you're dealing with a long time of a certain nature. Give them some time, people. They're in transition. They are literally, their life just got turned upside down. Spirit, man made new. This flesh is in the process. Some of us are a little further behind in the process than others, depending on the day, right? I'm back at the beginning of the process, depending on what's going on, right? They're in the process of changing things. They are in the process of leaning more toward God, and God knows if He doesn't tell them, don't steal from one another, they're going to. And He's like, I don't need you to take from one another. I need you to come to me. Because He's the source. He's the one. Everything He has done has pointed them to the fact that I'm the one you come to, not your neighbor. Sometimes, guys, we find ourselves in this place where we rely too heavily on everyone around us I thought it was kind of fitting what you was talking about this morning about getting too close to the wrong thing. Guys, there are periods of your life where you will get close to certain people, but it is only for a season of time, and then that season comes to a close and you got to move on. But we don't like change. We don't like change. We don't like changing things. We want to stay the way it's always been. Guys, listen, that could very well be why you are in the place you're in this morning. While you're sitting here looking at me going, I don't know what the deal is with God. I keep praying. I just don't feel like it. And we rely so much on our feelings, and we start talking about how we feel about all this. It could just very well be God's trying to drive some things out of you, and in order to do that, He's got you in a wilderness. And He's got you in a place where the only one you're going to be able to look to is Him and Him alone. Eventually, guys, I'm telling you, God's done it with me, and I know He'll do it with you. Eventually, God will remove all other factors in your life. He will remove everything until all you've got is Him. And then you've got a choice. Do I follow Him or do I start trying to steal from somebody else? We do it in church. We start trying to steal from one another. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyways, we're making sense so far? God is trying to get His people to depend on Him and Him alone. And these people, His people right now, Israel, are wandering through this desert, and they are trying to get to a land none of them has ever seen. And in order to do that, they have to rely on God. You and I have to rely on God. That is why this verse, why this commandment is important. Right? That's why it's important. It's because of who He's talking to. Now, how does that apply to you and I, right? I said, obviously, Scripture is written, so that you and I can sit down and say, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me, right? We know what it meant to them. What does it mean to you and I? Here's the fun thing about that verse. Just like the last one we talked about, you shall not commit adultery. Same with you shall not steal. There's no stipulations on that. What I mean by that is there's no room for playing with that. You shall not steal. Here's the problem with us when we start thinking about stealing things. Most of us, our minds probably went to a bank heist, right? Some of y'all started thinking Ocean's 11, we're going to rob a casino. You start thinking big things, right? We start thinking big, right? We start thinking big things. That's what grand theft, whatever. You know, we probably got some people in here. I don't know if they're with us this morning. I ain't going to point them out, but we got some people in here. I'm sure have stolen some cars and some things. Funny little story. Can I tell you something funny that happened to us one time? It's been several years ago. Will Arvin was out here. He won't care if I tell this. I know he won't. We had somebody lock our car, and they locked their keys in it. And I come in, and I start looking for a coat hanger. And I don't know if any of y'all know Will. Some of y'all may have seen him. Big Will. He's a big old dude, right? Covered in tattoos. He's got a past. Wonderful man of God. I praise God for him. At this point, though, he was early in his rehabilitation. And he looked at me, and he said, what are you doing, bud? I said, I'm getting ready to go out here and try to break into this car. I said, you wouldn't happen to be able to help me, would you? And he looked at me, and he said, why would you ask me if I know how to break into a car? I said, well, Will, do you know how to break into a car? He goes, yeah, come on, I'll help you now. That's what I thought. Don't lie to me. I know better, dude. He's like, yeah, I know how to do it. Come on. He said, is the keys in it? Do we have to start it? I said, no, we're not stealing it. We're just starting. We're just getting in it to get the key. All right, I got you, bud. Yeah, we don't have to hotwire nothing. We're good, dude. Guys, we start thinking big things. Here's the thing. You shall not steal means anything. Doesn't matter what it is, how great or how small it is, it's not acceptable to steal things. We make excuses for stealing things. We do. One of the more common ones, and guys, listen, ever since I got out of high school, I've been in construction of some kind. I'm going to tell you right now, you have never met a bigger group of kleptomaniacs in your life than a bunch of construction workers. They will walk off with everything, won't they? They'll walk off with everything. It don't matter. If it ain't nailed down, they're liable to throw it in the back of the truck and leave with it. It don't matter what it is. I worked with a guy one time at a power plant. This is a time for stories, I guess. Worked with a guy down at the power plant one time. I won't give his name. But he wanted to steal everything. Didn't matter what it was, he'd walk off with it. And one day I got to notice, and he'd walk by the ice chest out there and grab a bag of ice as we was walking out the gate to go home. Now, bear in mind, he didn't have a cooler in his car. He wasn't carrying a cooler. He was carrying that. I said, what are you doing? And he looked at me serious hard. He said, it just don't feel right walking out of here without stealing something. And I mean, he was dead serious. Dead serious. He had to take something. He used to say, well, can I tell this? We good? Everybody all right with this? Can I tell this little story? This is hilarious. Like I said, I'm not going to name names. This cat decided he was going to steal some cordless drills one day. He got a bucket, stuffed them down in it, and he ran in the break room, and he put it up on this really high shelf and left it up there. So that way, quit time, he'd come through, grab that bucket, walk off with it, nobody'd steal from him, right? He didn't want you to take what he took. Weird, I know. What was funny is the foreman seen what he was doing. No, you think he's in trouble. He's not. But it didn't belong to that company, so that foreman didn't care. But he went over and he took that bucket down while he wasn't in there, and he emptied it, and he filled that bucket plumb full of water. He slid it back up on that shelf. Go quit time. He come in there. Come on, dude, we got to go. Let's go. Hang on, son. He ran in there and grabbed that bucket and ripped it off that shelf. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, he said mean things about him, his mommy. He said mean things about everybody. He was really angry. But it was absolutely hilarious. Construction workers are really bad for stealing. Everybody's really bad for stealing, to be honest. You've stolen. At some point, I guarantee you have. You may want to look at me back, oh, no, we don't steal. You probably have. Right? You sat down, and here's the big reason why we do it. It's a big company. It's a big company. They won't even notice it's gone, right, Charlie? I mean, it's just a pack of gloves. Be all right. I mean, come on. Ain't nothing to get too excited over. It doesn't have that stipulation up there. It doesn't say you shall not steal unless it's a really big company. You shall not steal unless, well, they got a lot of money. Here's one. They owe me. I've heard that one a lot, right? I'm stealing because they owe me. I don't know how to tell you this, honey. You agreed to the wages you were being paid, and as long as they're paying you your wages, they don't owe you nothing. You don't walk off with stuff. And it's easy done. We don't think about it. We don't put it into perspective as to how important it is for us to maintain this lifestyle of not taking things that doesn't belong to you. And it's so easy to do, right? I mean, how easy is it? I mean, come on. How easy is it for you? Go down to the hardware store, get stuff to do a project at a school or whatever, and you go, you know what? I need some black tape at the house. They won't hardly notice, and walk off with it. They bought it. How easy is it for me to walk into a safety room? Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Don't look at me like you don't. Walk in. Talking to you, Sid. You work for railroad. I know you know. Yeah, don't. Yeah, looking all innocent. You know. Oh, yeah, he knows. It's easy to walk into one of these rooms that's got all these packs of gloves. Like, they won't notice. Walk off with them. He said, do not steal. You're not meant to take things that don't belong to you. You're not meant to do that. And God, it is still just as important today as it was then. This is why I emphasized everything I did at the beginning of this. This is a very simple sermon, but I want us to understand, don't take that lightly. Here's the thing. We think we're okay and we think everything's fine as long as we don't get caught. You shall not steal unless you're really good at it. Right? I mean, if I don't get caught, it's all okay. No, you do not steal. You do not steal. That is not something that is acceptable. That is why, guys, even to this day, and I'll be straight with you, I was the guy, the reason why I bring up the examples I bring up is because I've been in construction for a long time, and I'm just going to tell you, I've taken a lot of things. Y'all can look at me and be all innocent if you like. I know you're lying. Especially some of y'all that work construction. I know better. Y'all walked off with all kinds of stuff. Healthcare is just as bad, right? I mean, it don't matter where you're at. You got that opportunity. I've walked off with all sorts of stuff. So many years later, I got to where I was like, you know what? This ain't right. This ain't right. Here's my favorite one. You know, they technically, they tell us take safety home with us, Josh. Right? They tell us take, and I feel like I'm just doing what they tell me. They say take safety home. I'm taking the gloves. I mean, you know, or I'm taking whatever. Right? Let me tell you something about the word technically. If you have to say, well, technically, as your defense before you start saying anything, technically, you're wrong, and you know you are. Okay? If you have to go, well, technically, you're wrong, don't even try. Just stop. You know it's true. You know you messed up. This is just as important in today's world as it was back then. We're not meant to steal from one another. We're not meant to steal from one another spiritually either. How do you steal things from somebody spiritually? We're winding down here. We're winding down. You can steal things from people spiritually. How do I steal things from somebody spiritually? I can tell you a really good example, talking in the middle of a sermon. Sounds silly, sounds simple, and you sat down and you say, well, come on, man, that's a little rough. But if you're sitting there having a full-blown conversation with your neighbor, and they ain't hearing the word, and they're not hearing what God's trying to tell his people, you've stole from that individual spiritually. During altar call, you get up and you decide, hey, man, where you going after service? You want to go over to Sazon's or where are we going, man? You want to go to Arby's? Well, you guys want, where we eating at after this is all over with? That cat wouldn't shut up for I don't know how long. I'm really hoping we go. and you start trying to carry out a full-blown conversation in the middle of the altar call, and you have no idea that the guy you're talking to may very well be going through some things, and he needs to come to an altar of prayer and hear from God and pour his heart out before God, but because you're over here being a chatty Cathy and you ain't shutting up, you just robbed him. You just robbed him of what he needed from God. You can rob one another spiritually. You can rob one another spiritually by not thinking before you open your mouth. Now listen to me, you're looking at a guy, I'm well aware of the fact that just like everybody in this room, we sometimes have off days and we snap at people and don't mean to. Do you know how many times I've had to go back and look at people and be like, I'm sorry, that was out of line, shouldn't have said that way, that was a little harsh, my bad. I was in a mode, I was in this place, and I didn't mean to do that. I've even done that and had people look at me like I was crazy for doing it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you. Like, you snapped at me? I'm like, well, you didn't hear it in my head. What came out wasn't nearly as hateful as what was going on in here. You have no idea what went on in there. Glad I didn't say that. You rob people with church hurt. That is a statement that absolutely drives me crazy. Church hurt. We got people who allow someone to rob them, and they call it church hurt. Church hurt. You know why it frustrates me to hear the term church hurt? I know it's a real thing. I'm not trying to make light of it. But you want to know why it bugs me? Is because that's the only kind of hurt that you ever hear about. Known a lot of people who've been to the beach, got stung by jellyfish, never heard of them saying, I'm beach hurt. I ain't going back now. Never again. Tell me I'm wrong. How many of you ever had a bad experience at Walmart? Never heard nobody be in Walmart hurting. I ain't going back never again, that bunch. Hospital hurt. I'm sick, I'm going to go see a doctor. Never heard of doc hurt. Never heard of that. Nobody, no, but we can get church hurt. We come in, get our feelings hurt, and we sit down and we say, I'm never going back again. Like I said, I'm not saying church hurt is not a real thing. I'm not saying people don't mistreat you. I'm not saying you've never had a bad experience in a church house. I think every one of us has ever been in a church house for very long. You've experienced some issues. You want to know why? Take a good, long, hard look around this room. You know what's in here? People. And they are people, and people will do people things. That's what people do. That's how it is. You're not going to go through your entire life and not have somebody in a church house say something off the wall to you and upset you. But you want to know something you also shouldn't do? You also shouldn't give in so quickly and let them steal from you like that. Whenever I leave my house, just like everybody in here, there's a routine you go through of some sort to try and secure your home. Do you not? Something. You may lock your door. If it's going to be night, by the time you get back, you leave the porch light on. Maybe leave a light on in the kitchen or something, look like somebody's here. You do a number of things to give the impression that there's somebody here to discourage someone from taking from you. You don't want someone to steal from you. Yet for whatever reason spiritually, we allow people to walk into our lives and mug us in our own spirits. We will allow people to come in and rob us of any blessing that God has for you simply because they said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And now you're hurt. Listen to me this morning. Do not allow someone to rob from you either. Don't do that. Spiritually, don't allow them to rob from you. You take care of your home in such a way to keep people from breaking into it. What about this? What about this? I've heard on how many, I had a guy one time sit down and we were talking and it was a God thing because it was a spur of the moment. I hadn't thought about it, but he made this comment. He said, I used to go to church. I don't anymore because, well, I had some bad experiences. And he was talking about his bad experience, and he kept talking about this bad experience. And finally I said, let me ask you something. Would you let that guy walk into your house today and tell you how to talk to your wife and talk to your children? And would you allow him to walk into your living room, turn your TV off while you're watching it, tell you to get up and go? He said, oh, no, I'd fight him. I said, then why are you letting him do it with your heart? Why are you letting them do it with your heart? You wouldn't let them do that with anything you own physically, but yet spiritually we're just like, come on in. Wreck the place. This way I've got something to complain about, I guess. Guys, it's not, don't allow people to rob you. I made the comment a second ago. I said, whenever I leave the house, we have a series of things you may do. One of them is more common with a lot of people is they leave a light on. Jesus said, I am the light. Leave the light on, y'all. How do I discourage people from robbing from me, from stealing from me? When you've got the light on, you see them coming. That's the point of the light. The point of the light is to see it coming before it gets to you. And when it gets there, you're ready for it. Listen to me, there are certain people, you know it, I know, we all have those certain folks that when you see them coming, you prepare yourself. You brace yourself because you know what they're being. Some of y'all are laughing. Some of y'all are related to them. I don't know. Yeah, for real. I might be that person to you. I walk in and you're like, ooh, God, here it comes. Okay. You make preparations. Make preparations today. Jesus would address this commandment. The last two, Jesus talks about them a little more in depth in Matthew chapter 5. In Matthew chapter 6, he kind of, in a roundabout way, in my mind, alludes to this commandment. And it's in chapter 6, verse 33. And it's a familiar scripture most of us know. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. This whole thing, guys, the whole commandment, this whole sermon is about one thing and one thing only. Don't take from one another because it's not necessary. Don't allow others to take from you because it's not necessary. But lean in and focus on him and seek him first. And he will add to you everything that needs to be added to you. All right, stand with me if you will for just a minute. Miss Hopi, if you want to come up.